This time I'll ask for a roll call and be followed by a pledge of allegiance.
Councilmember Juneau?
Yes.
Councilmember Roussel?
Here.
Councilmember Trufant Savant?
Here.
This time I'd like to ask you to rise, and Mr. Juneau, would you lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Please say with me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good morning, everyone. We are going to move to new business. Presentation by Ms. Lakeisha Daisy. You want to read that out for us?
Sure. Presentation by Ms. Lakeisha Daisy, Internal Auditor, providing audits and results for 2016.
Good morning.
Come on, Ms. Daisy, we'll turn it over to you at this time for the presentation.
Okay. So first, we're going to go over, I guess, we wanted a update on what we have for 2016. So there were the continuations of the disbursement reports.
Do you have a written report for us?
A written?
Yeah, a
No,
copy of what?
I can send this to you, but this is my copy that I'm reading
Well,
from.
could you maybe have the secretary make some copies for us to go from,
Sure.
so we can follow?
So while I'll skip the first one and go to the second one, because I have printed out the copies of that. In 2016, we created, or I created the internal audit request form. I sent a copy out to everyone to have for their records. In case they wanted, this was something that we also discussed on at the last meeting. So everybody should now have either both the electronic version as well as the printed version to make the request. And as I noted to everyone, these forms are to be turned into the audit committee. And then y'all will decide as far as the audits, what we're going to be working on. The first item was, like I said, there was a request for a disbursement report for Leon DePlesant and Son, and that was compiled of from 2013 to 2015 disbursements. Then there was an update done to the 25 and above disbursement report to include a year-to-date total.
Before we get too much further on here, you've got this listed as an agenda on here, and so we want to change this to a report that you're providing to us.
Okay.
Because I don't want to have two agendas floating out in the public domain and somebody say, well, which one is the agenda? You follow me?
I follow you.
Okay, so we're going to reclassify this as a report for the February 9th, 2017 meeting.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So there was we first did a first revision, working on the disbursement report to include the year-to-date total. Then there was a second revision where we went back and did the report, expanded it again, changing it from 500 and above to 2,500 and above. And that was to include more detailed on the PWs, breaking out those certificates and task orders, and putting the detailed information, on those. Then, let's see, oh, there was a request for the YMCA Legacy Program. That's an ongoing, audit right now. What I'm trying to find, I guess the problem with that is that, nobody knows what was originally, the agreement. So I'm trying to get a detail to find out what their responsibilities are as far as like us making those payments to them. And I guess this came about with the gym equipment being taken from the day event location. So that's still ongoing. I have a phone number to try and get in touch with somebody from the Y to see if they could give us a copy of their accounting records as far as it relates to this program.
So you're saying right now you can't track the funding that was geared to that was collected under the legacy program?
Like the funding, there's an accounting part that's done over at the Y that they supposed to keep track of, like what they purchased. We don't have that detail. So, and from what I could understand, the Y has always given us the runarounds as far as giving us an accounting of what the money was spent for. So we have funds, but we pay them. And we don't have the details as to what that money was spent on.
But somebody took their gym equipment away?
Hey,
Oh, I'm sorry.
right, go ahead.
Sorry.
So, that's what I'm trying to get a hold of, how the money was spent. Only accounting we have is what we have and what was sent to them.
I think the overall objective of investigating the legacy program was to establish the funding. How did the funding was divided? Because we know the legacy program collected millions under the auspices of the government. And then it was dispersed it was supposed to be dispersed to the 3 or 4 Ys throughout the parish. But that didn't happen. So that's what brought us to the problem when John made an issue, when Mr. Bartholomew raised an issue about them retracting the funding that was given to his program. He wanted his money to go directly to his Y rather than it being in the pool.
Right.
So that's when the issue came up, and what they did, the YMCA in turn Mr. Becknell pulled all of the equipment out of his building. So the question still remained today, did they have the authority to do that? Because if it was under the legacy program was raised that the money should be utilized between all 3 Ys. So that's what we are trying to get the nuts and bolts of everything.
And in trying to get that, no one everyone, there's nothing that I've been able to get in writing to say how, what, where, like a CA agreement, how this initially came about. So no one has a copy of like the initial information. And on our end, when getting the information from finance, all I was able to receive is that I think it's like 300,000 that's in the account, and it just shows we have 300,000 and then the disbursements that was sent to them. I don't have any other detail. So that's what I'm trying to get, some more detail. And you can't do an audit until you get the information that you need to determine what's going on.
I'm still, it's nothing to your on your end, but I'm still simply is in awe that all funding that's collected in the parish, it has to be a tracking mechanism of some sort.
Right.
So how could they not, and how could you as an auditor not be able to acquire that information?
That's the $1 million question.
You know, because again, I want to also go on record as saying that there's also is this myth, and it's not really a myth, but the statements are always being made that the Bellchase Y is a private Y. And I can appreciate that in some parts of the language. But then if it's a private Y and utilizing matter, and to be in all reality, the bulk of the legacy money was being utilized, in my opinion, was utilized at this private Y.
And that may be so because in the information that was given to me, I don't have anything on the Bellchase Y. I just have for the 3 otherwise that was in the parish. The Davant, the Port Selfa, and the Beerus.
Okay, well, I would like you to just to continue to pursue that matter, and I think my office, I'm not sure, because a lot of Burgard, the previous council member, files was destroyed or whatever. You know, it may still be some things there that I can, because I know he was very active in this, and he tried to champion a lot of that issue surrounding that legacy money, because he felt that his district in the lower end was cheated. So I may be, and I remember there's a guy named Buzz Elliott. He stands out. Buzz Elliott is the person that was head of that United Way. He was this guy that was, I don't know where he is now or what he's doing, but he was the guy that was putting together this legacy program along with, it's another name that stands out in my mind, that was the head of the United Way. And the 2 of them was the parish guys in raising all of these funds.
Mike Bush?
It wasn't Mike Bush was somewhere in there, but
Let's
it
try
was.
to go recognize, we're gonna recognize the public after the members.
Yeah, so I was just trying, but what I'm saying is I may be able to help you, you know, get my assistant to look into some of the files, and we may be able to channel through some of that to get you to the right person.
Okay. One of the things I guess what I find it is a problem. Anybody that we make any kind of payments to, or we should be able to get an accounting record. If they're receiving funds from the parish, even if it is a third-party vendor or whomever, they still should be able to provide us with an accounting of what is done. And I'm finding that with this in particular, but I haven't ran across it, but I've also heard that there were other companies that they won't give us any information or any accounting records. So I don't know how that issue will go about being resolved when we have someone that we're providing funding to, and they can't give us or won't give us any accounting records, because that's essential also in being able to perform the audit.
Okay, that's all I have on there.
Right. Does somebody want to comment on the legacy YMCA item on the agenda that we're discussing in the report?
Yeah, one question, just as somebody who don't know too much about it, is that was the legacy program like money that was donated to the parish for use into establishing wise? And if it was, I've noticed at the council meeting, most time when donations come through, it's approved by the council to accept a donation. And if the council records show back then that there was money coming with United Way, however this legacy money came in, did it have to go through the council to be accepted, and then it went to our finance department, and the finance department distributed it? You know, is there something in the records that could show that money entering as a donation, or was it a donation?
I don't know the answer to that question. My recollection is that the money did not come through the parish.
It did?
That it was a private effort through the YMCA in conjunction with the government to raise money through the private sector to be able to rebuild some of the infrastructure in the parish. And my recollection is not very clear about 12, 15 years ago, but that's what I remember as far as the effort on the part of the legacy campaign, raising funds for public purpose.
Because the structures are assumed, I don't know about the one in Belchase, but well, put on parish-owned properties, the structures that were built. I don't know if any of the building parts came from the legacy or the operation of it.
Well, it's my understanding that the building structures were built with FEMA money, PWs, and they provided money, for instance, for the gym equipment that they moved
Oh,
out.
okay.
But in addition to what Mr. Russell is saying, is there's that piece there that Mr. Nungesser, because it still is convoluted in a way that prior to Katrina and prior to the new Ys coming on,
Right.
we had community centers. So there's a contract somewhere, there's a contract that existed. We went away, Mr. Nungesser elected to go away from community centers and bring in Ys, like Port Sulphur YMCA, it's no longer a Port Sulphur Community Center, it's a Y. He brought new hires in, he hired new people to man these YMCA's, but still, there had to be a contract to say what was going where, because I know for a fact, we were supposed to, the Port Sulphur, my area, my district was supposed to receive a Olympic-sized swimming pool. We didn't get
Correct,
that.
yeah, I remember.
All of the things that it was a contract that was made that say what these funds were going to be used for. And as time went on, it went away from the contract. Billy Nungesser basically did what he wanted to, and that's how all the money ended up in certain areas and didn't go to the things that were supposed
Like you were saying, I think this YMCA here in Belchester is a different entity
I do.
than the other three.
It is.
The other three is owned by the parish, where this one here isn't owned by the parish.
And I agree,
You know?
but see, but there's a splitting of hairs.
Right, I agree
It
with
doesn't,
you.
but so that would make it not be a part of this legacy. You wouldn't think that the legacy money would have been, the bulk of the legacy money would have went to a private
understand.
institution.
I understand.
And this is where the conflict came
But
in.
the
When they-
connection is that we fund in our contract of that $200,000, some of that money goes to pay half of the salary at the Belchase YMCA.
Right.
Yes, I
So-
get that.
Yeah, but when-
It's an entity by itself for one thing, and
And
then
then
for
it be-
something
then
else,
it's
it becomes
It comes
different.
equal, yes.
Yeah.
It became one contract. What he did was he partnered with United Way, made a board, and they decided they were going to have a chairman. Mike Bush was the chairman of the board. When they did this, the United Way money, the part that they give to each Y, came to the Y. However, the legacy part, some of the money was donated from the chemical plants. BP, ConocoPhillips gave so much, Shell gave so much. It's broken down into...
That's where the construction of the Y
Exactly,
came from, the
okay.
BP money.
So, but what happened was, instead of it being divvied up evenly amongst the Ys, the Belchase Y got the bulk of that money. I know, I've seen it on pay, I have it, it's at
Do
home.
you have a copy of the contract? Because I can't
But
even
let me
get a
say
copy
this,
of
what
that.
we focus on the parish's portion of this stuff.
Right.
Right, but like,
And so, we need to look at what the parish contracts say and what we did.
right, and that's what I'm asking for. I don't have a copy of the contract. I can't seem to get a copy of that contract. So I'm to hold somebody accountable, or I don't know I don't have the information.
Well, all I can do is guide you to either the clerk of court's office to see if the contracts were recorded there, to the contracts administrator in the administration to see if they have a copy of the contract, and if none of them have a copy of the contract, the legal department, if they don't have a copy of the contract, then you'll have to resort to some outside source.
But I'll be willing to work along with you in
Thank
that
you.
endeavor.
One other question is, we don't own Belchase Y?
No, we do not.
No.
We don't, okay.
No.
I didn't know that.
That's-
No.
All right, any further items on the legacy program? If not, we'll move on.
Okay, the next item, which kind of started out in 2016, but is continuing into 2017, is the 2016 manpower structure. This was supposed to, I guess, be able to capture every individual, as far as like departments, positions, were they approved, did they go through the proper channels? And I'm still gathering the information to put that together, to look at this. It's a 3-year window that I'm looking into, and that will provide, I guess, a overview of our manpower structure and what occurred doing that. Because there were some questions that I guess came about last year to bring this up, where we've had a position or two that was created but not brought forward before the council to get approval. And so we wanted to look at the manpower. There was also a request by the council to the administration to make sure that everyone that was in their positions either qualified for their positions or was supposed to be in their positions. And then there was a lot of transfers and layoffs. So now that I guess everything is kind of settled down with the employees and the moving around, the only changes that we should have as far as like employees is the positions that come about with the new administration and his appointed positions. But as far as like all of the employees, I guess everyone should be in place, and there's no anticipation on layoffs, so now we can get a better picture of that, and I'll be able to provide y'all with that information.
Do you have any idea when you'll finish that report?
That will be, no, I don't. I'm not going to sit here and give you a date. I will be able to give you more information when we meet the next time.
Next.
Mr. Russo, I have a quick question
Yes.
about manpower. What is our parish standard with regard to advertising for a vacant position? Like in the school board, we always had to advertise for every single job for 2 weeks. It had to be posted in every building and on the state website or our website. What is the parish's procedure with regard to
For
posting for?
classified civil service employees, we follow a procedure laid out where the department makes a request. If it's a funded position to civil service, they advertise it, they screen the candidates, they report the top 3 candidates that they feel is qualified for the position to the appointing authority, and the appointing authority chooses from that list. If they reject all 3, they have to give reasons why, and if they ask for a second list and the civil service director decides that the request is legitimate, then she provides the next 3.
And what about that non-classified? Like, how does the
Non-classified.
public know what jobs are available? Like, even for the board director, like, how does the public know
Well-
that deputy director job is vacant and how to apply for it? and
It's
what
in the Gazette,
qualifications?
it's being advertised in the Plaquemines Parish Gazette and around
Okay,
for that particular position.
okay, so
As far as-
unclassified positions go through the Gazette?
Well, I don't know that all non-classified positions go to the Gazette. If the parish president decides to hire somebody without an advertisement, that's his prerogative to do that. It's non-classified, it's a political appointee, and they serve at the will of the president. So he can bring his own team in. I know that in the past history, when I was the president, I would use civil service to advertise for all the positions and select from that list just to follow the procedure. I know that the courts and them follow their own procedure. Some of them use civil service systems, some of them don't.
Okay, thank you.
All right?
Okay, and I guess the last item that I have under, oh, I'm sorry, let me go back to the point 3, the last item, the 2016-2015, 2016, the 25,000 and above disbursement.
2,500.
2,500, I'm sorry, 2,500 and above disbursement report. I've received that. It's under review and it'll be emailed out, tomorrow, to everyone.
How can the public get a copy of that? Do we do a public records request to you?
You can just, give me your email address and I'll email it out to you.
And I would think that it would be good to put a public request into her.
Okay.
Okay, and then, going to point 4, future audits. Last week in our meeting, Audrey, you requested that we do an audit on the grants. So I just received, a copy of all of the grants that we have. I requested information on the grants for the last 3 years, even if they were open or closed. And so this was, this is what they was sent back to me. I guess my question now, because there's a number of grants here, and basically we would need to go into the details of the accounting. How would y'all like to go about, we would have to select, I guess, a grant that we would want to look at. I'm not sure how much detail, how much information is behind it, but to look at every single one of these, I guess, in detail would just depends on how much information and that I'm looking into.
Let me know, just for time purposes, I think the only thing that you can effectively audit would be those that are closed. It's a little difficult to audit an ongoing project without it being closed out. So I would say that we narrow it down to the closed out grants and select some of those grants to be reviewed to see if they were properly handled for the expenditure of the funds, whether it be state, local, or federal funds. To audit something that's in process is probably spinning our wheels until it's completed.
But maybe I want to interject that maybe that's not absolutely correct for all grants here, because I have a great interest in the elevation money. And even though it's, according to this report, they're not closed, but that request was made to the grant department on behalf of myself and John, Mr. Bartholomew, and we were refused the information. So, I know that, and then the reason what raised my curiosity is that I learned through after the request was made that there was funding that was returned back to the state as a result of elevation money, and I was furious. So I think that I would still be in requesting, or would like to know just what to up to this point, what the elevation grant money looked like, where it was dispersed, how was it dispersed, or to whom. Now I realize, coming from being a previous employee with Community Action, I know that was a confidentiality thing. You either there's a clause there that you can't give all three, a name, an address, and so on, social security number, but you can give like a name, or either not a name, or just an address, a location, or something. You can't give all three.
Well, we can at least give the name, because this is a public document, the disbursement report, and that individual name, as well as whatever elevation company that they're working with, is on the disbursement report. So that is at least published.
Whatever is the
So let me ask you, you're looking for compliance, basically?
yes,
with the
yes,
guidelines?
yes, because I know, in
So
my
then-
opinion, that it wasn't
Then
followed.
I would go back to my original statement about closed out elevation contracts and view those for compliance. The reason I was saying that you can't really audit something that's ongoing is because you can go in there and get the records and they can change them tomorrow.
Right,
But if it's closed out, then the record is the record, and if they've elevated 50 homes, then you got 50 projects that you can
look into.
view for compliance.
Well, I guess I
I
misinterpret
agree.
I guess I misinterpret your comment, because I was thinking that you were saying if we got $5 million for elevation and we have completed 30 homes, well, we still got 20 more to do. Well, I'm thinking you said that wouldn't apply, but yeah, exactly what he's saying. I would want to report on the 30 completed programs.
Right, and as well as, I guess, we need to know if the money was sent back and we're not doing these elevation projects anymore, how much money that was sent to us was actually
No, I just,
sent.
Trudy, I don't think we need to follow up on that right now. I'm just interested in, because,
Well, if there's money that was sent back and we don't have that money anymore, that means that this whole complete elevation project.
that was different, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
There was 4 or 5 different programs for elevation. So under this, it was a repetitive loss. I think that was the one that money was returned. But that don't necessarily mean that it was the HMPG grant or the PHAT grant or something of that sort. So I'm just asking you the ones that you have listed here. Like the 91 properties on the second page, the 4th item down.
Right.
Elevation, reconstruction, acquisition. And the Isaac elevation at 5 million, 99 properties was elevated.
Okay, so we have a goal of auditing or looking into those
Yes, what I will do is,
grants.
I will, submit to the grants department, the grants in which we're looking to, perform the audit on. Once, they reply back to me with, some preliminary information, then I can get back, or report to you all, hopefully next meeting as to, the magnitude of what we're looking at.
Okay.
Any comments from, yes?
Yeah, maybe you can explain on this. I noticed at the council meeting, any grant, before they apply for it, they come to the council for approval to apply for the grant. Then when the grant is given, the council accepts the grant. Am I correct in that?
It depends. We're talking about grants that were begun in the last administration,
Right.
and they did not necessarily come to the government, and we'd have to research the council records to see if they did come for these specific house elevation grants, and if there's any legislation to accept them or not.
No, I noticed during the last administration, Billy's administration, some grants came that the council authorized the grant administrator to apply. I forget the man's name that was the council, the grant administrator. He came first and asked,
Puckett, Jimmy Puckett.
Puckett, yeah, he would ask, I'd like to apply for a grant, whatever the grant was for, that was available to the parish. The council then gave him the okay to apply. Didn't mean he was gonna get the grant, but he applied for the grant. Once he received the grant, and maybe I'm wrong, but it came back to the council to accept the grant.
Well, we haven't had any, other than a few that you might have seen where some private individual wants to
Oh,
donate.
I know,
something
donations
like
are
that.
different, no, I'm talking about grants.
Right. Well, if you have a specific grant that you want us to research, the council secretary can go through the files to see if there's any ordinance or resolution accepting or requesting the grant to be pursued, so to speak.
The grant money that you're talking about for these individual, they had a meeting at the Port Southwold YMCA, but that was just for the grant department to ask anybody that was applying for elevation to apply for it. That, yes, they did do individually, but when I would go to the meetings and Benny Puckett would say, he'd ask for a community block grant, and the parish had to
Correct.
approve it. But this there is a website that has all the money that was returned by parish. I can give it to y'all and you can look on there because it's public record for that.
All right, and, anything else, Mr. Daisy?
No,
Let me ask you this, do you have any audits for 2016 that were completed that we can review?
I can give you, what was submitted for, the report that was submitted for the Duplessis,
Let me ask you this, you said it's a report, is it just simply a listing, or did you actually do some checking as to compliance?
No, all what was requested was, they only wanted to know what money was given to them. I don't know what was the purpose of that request.
So go back, do you have any completed audits for 2016 that, has a trail of, I gathered the information, reviewed the information, and these are the findings and conclusions?
No, last year, there was nothing, as far as getting into the details of looking into things other than the request for that legacy program and the YMCA.
And so we don't have anything completed that we can really look at. So the purpose of those questions are because I'd like to see us set an agenda to be able to focus on a complete, thorough process to where if we decide to do home elevations,
Right,
and you're going to look at 10 out of the 50 that's completed, then you have a report written showing that you gathered the information, you researched for compliance, these were the results and the conclusions and recommendations that may be forthcoming that we have to provide to change our policy, improve it, or it was a great thing.
right. Well, you're the first, I guess, committee that wanted it in such a way, and that's the way that, I agree it should be. Unfortunately, last year, I didn't really have that, so.
Okay, so that concludes that item. Any other comments? So
I
for
do
moving
have-
forward, for moving forward, let's come to an understanding of where we're going to go.
Right, and that's what I was just
All
about
right,
to
go
ask.
ahead.
So, I guess what I want to know, one of the questions I guess that I had, was, I spoke with Mr. Peoples, regarding the disbursement report that we've been doing. And what I would like, and I don't know how you all want to go about doing this, but it was one of the things, I don't have a copy of this, and it was not an audit, it was just something that came up that kind of sparked. Sometimes when you get questions, that's when you find information. And as I was stating at the last meeting, on a monthly basis, we have that the amount of that check is not captured. So we had the cell phone bills, for an example. And as I was stating, it was no secret that I had been gone for the parish for almost a year, but that bill was still being paid. It was an 11-page document, including a copy of the check with the supporting details. It was signed off and approved by 4 or 5 different individuals. And all I'm saying is that if we can overlook something like that with a 11-page document and it's being disseminated for approval, how many other of these checks that, because when we review these checks, basically we're just looking for some key information. We don't go in depth into a lot of these checks because the document this is just an example of one. You can have 100 pages. So in this report that we provide to you all, we give you the check, the amount, the name, we give you a brief description of what this check is for, invoices, POWs, approvals, and if there's something that just happens to catch your eye, which there was one in the process for preparing this on last year. The only thing that had caught our eye was when we were going in to give the details on the PWs, we noticed that there was a PW that was paid that didn't have the president's signature. But to get into the in-depthness of the program or these checks, we don't capture that. And so here's an example of a vendor that we paid for with the PWs. And we track, or we're supposed to be tracking the amount of money that's spent under the PW's task order numbers, etc. Under a task order, that's supposed to be related to a PW. But you have task orders that, or just general title administration, and you have a list of different PWs, but that money is not put to the PW. That money is put in just in that category.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I think that's what Mr. Roussel is asking you for, from this point forward, that we want more detailed reporting.
I understand
so I think
that.
all of what you're just explaining there is just that's what we're asking for.
Correct,
And-
but we have to make a decision because it's just myself and my assistant. So you can't look at all of these checks in that level of detail when you providing this every month. So my recommendation would be we need to pick like a vendor, a project, a task in order to track, to see. It's impossible to because every month you're looking at you're just looking at the details of that check. This information provided doesn't tell you what happened last month. You're not able to see what was billed last month if we double paid that last month. You won't get that understanding until you look at that project as a whole, not on a monthly basis. So,
Right, so let me cut to the chase. First of all, the report that you commonly refer to as the check register,
yes, sir.
the details on there are not sufficient for me to be able to know what the project is. If you go back and look in the history of those reports, and I'm not saying we have to do those reports every month. There could be quarterly reports and an annual report that summarizes them all. But underneath the category of where those reports are generated in the past, you would see PW and it would list the PW number, and that way you could track that expenditure, in my mind, to be able to sit there and say, okay, on this PW, and it would have a description that we have spent $10 million on this. And to date, there was a running total. For instance, if the contractor was payment number 16, contract number so-and-so, amount $50 million. To date, $45 million.
Right.
That's the detail that I refer to that is lacking on the reports now. And so that's what was beneficial to me, to be able to track how much we spent on that project or that consultant or that category, because it continued forward and was updated. And monthly is probably too much. Quarterly would probably be better. So you can have time to be able to go forward and pick something off the list that needs to be addressed. And, you know, to me, an auditing process is a random sample
Exactly.
of viewing the operations of the government. It's not encompassing everything and wasting time on looking at everything and not accomplishing
Nothing.
anything.
Right. You're absolutely right.
So, as far as picking out some specific goals, and I would like to see us do something and have a monthly report that is completed with conclusions and recommendations that we can either act on or pat somebody on the back for.
Okay.
And so that goes to the next item 4.
Right.
Discussion of future audits and plans, sorry.
So I think that when we get to this item here is where we were just going with this discussion. And so you already have one audit to be looking at, and that's the grants that were requested earlier. Now, I think we need to add to that list so that down the line for the next 8 months, we'll know where we're headed.
Right.
And not get diverted into something that we don't need to be into, and stick with our audit plan, which we don't have yet. And that's what we really need, is an audit plan to set those target and goals as to where we're headed for March, April, May, June, so forth.
Okay, and going on what you just said, for this particular report, we'll go from this to the quarterly report. I can use the, I guess, the completed 2016 report that we have, year to date, to pick out those particular projects or vendors that we want to get an in-depth look at. And what I'll do is,
But I don't want that to be the confining direction that we head. For instance, there's been suggestions that we look at the permitting office
Correct.
to find whether or not, they're charging everybody the same. Are they looking at all permits properly? And is there a better way to do the permits so we can make recommendations to improve the permit department? And it may be just an efficiency situation. And I'm just throwing this out, something that I've observed is that if you have permits, planning, and zoning, and you split them up and you got one person here that's zoning, one person over here that's permitting, and if you call on the phone and you're looking for zoning and you happen to get permits, they'll refer you over to the desk for zoning, but they don't just pass the phone. You got to call back or something to that nature. I've had that experience over the past. So we're looking for efficiencies in government, not necessarily everything has to be fraud or theft or that item. We're looking to be able to make recommendations to the full council on a regular basis on what we can do to improve the operations of the government.
Mr. Russo.
So, let me respond. Go ahead.
and I guess in that manner, which is kind of like what I would have liked to been able to accomplish. You do that by kind of from a, like you said, a departmental standpoint. Hopefully, and I will work with you all. There is no stopping or preventing of us to be able to go into those departments, to be able to look at those processes and those procedures, but the way it was in the past,
No, but we're not here
I
about the past.
understand that. I understand that.
We are
but
moving forward from here
We're trying
forward.
to move
No,
forward.
we're all moving forward.
Well, we could move forward,
We are, there's no
but
trying here. We're
I
moving
have to
forward.
bring it to you, is what I'm saying. If I'm prevented, you need to know about it.
That's
So
correct.
So all I'm saying is
But
that,
this is the situation. If you are prevented, then you need to give us a written report as to who, what, when, and where prevented you.
will do.
Okay. Anything else?
I have a question. Or would it be efficient to have, if we requested to have somebody from finance attend the audit meetings, so that when there is a question about something that, and every audit meeting I've been to has been a question about what's in finance, would that be efficient or no?
Well, this is the way I look at it. The finance department can come if they'd like. However, if there is a roadblock in the finance department, then I expect a report from where, when, how, and who was the obstruction.
I'm not talking about obstruction, I'm talking about as an ongoing, to me, the finance department and the internal auditor, she should be able to have, they both should be working, like,
Well, no, they should not be.
together, I don't mean, not working together like that, to ask questions, because we've always had questions about what they can, what finance and or internal
This is
auditing
the
does.
situation. My position as part of the internal audit committee is that we have access to everything. Now, if there's some confidentiality laws that prevent us from getting that information, that's one thing. But if we have to get information out of the finance department that is public record,
Right.
and if she has someone that tells her no, then I need to know to pass on to these guys. They
No,
need to
I
know to
I
pass
was
on
just
to
talking about for
me.
efficiency.
Well,
if it was-
there's
it
no
would be-
efficiency that I see because we are charged with auditing everybody,
I agree,
including them.
I agree.
So if they're at the table, that's up to them to be at the table.
I was just trying to see if there was some other way to help you
Well,
all
if-
get the information that you
If we would
need.
go in that manner, then we wouldn't need her.
No, not necessarily, you would, you would.
Because if they're all working together, which is fine to work together, but who's gonna audit who?
I think what need to happen here is that we need to, and I think what Mr. Russell is trying to establish is to move this audit department in the right direction. So we have to be on the same page. The three of
Oh, I
us,
agree.
along with Ms.
I
Lakeisha,
agree.
has to be on the same page. Before we can venture out and pit this one against that one and this one, that's what happened in the past. We had
that's why I'm saying that's why I
everybody,
thought
you know,
might
they
be
was
more
being
efficient.
pit against each other. No, we have to establish our procedures, policies, and procedures from the audit perspective.
Oh, no, I
Once we
agree.
get our act together, then we can proceed. You know, but
Right.
then Lakeisha, we want her to feel comfortable enough to know that whatever problem you have out there, you can't sit on it. If you have a problem with a request that have made from this committee, we need to hear about it.
Absolutely.
You know, you can't go out there and be the big bad wolf and try to resolve it. You need to bring it to this
I was just
committee.
asking if it would be efficient more efficient for finance to be involved in
But
that,
I mean,
that's it, that's
but to
no
answer
other
your question,
reason.
but to answer your question, Michelle, the finance department could be sitting right there and still not
Comply.
forthcoming with the
Thank you.
information.
Thank you.
So,
That's my
what-
point.
you know, so
I'm
we,
just asking. Thank you, that's what I was getting at.
And along on that line, you, remember you had a question as far as did I have access to be able to review or look into everything, especially when it come down to being in the system. Well, when, the incident where I was talking about the situation with the PWs and being able to go in depth and look in, when I went to that section in the finance system, I had no access. So I can't go in and look at the level to track to see what that money is or,
so that needs to be a part of your report, is all we're saying.
okay.
Okay. All right, so, moving forward, I would expect us to have, an idea, plan, part of our procedure to move forward with a listing of where we're headed on audits. So far, we got one, and that's the PPG grants.
No, so far we got three. We have the legacy program that we're continuing to look into, the manpower structure, and the grants.
Okay, I'm still not sure what we're gonna do with the continuance of the manpower structure audit.
We can drop that.
Well, no, I'm not saying drop it, I'm not sure where we're trying to get with that.
Okay, I will give you a detailed, description and in writing of more in-depth explanation of that and where we are with that. We have the grants. I will again make a listing of those grants that we're planning to look into. I will also, as I said, send you the 2016, 25 and above report. And in that report, I will make some recommendations as far as a few of these that we may want to get a more in-depth look at. And then we have the grants. We have a couple of vendors as far as what we're looking into. And then you want to do a kind of like a departmental thing where with the making sure that they're operating efficiently and effectively. And so I'll look at our departmental list and kind of give a recommendation as to the permit department being one. But a couple of departments that we can look into and focus this year to make sure that they're doing things effectively.
Okay. So let me ask you this, within 2 weeks, can you provide us with that information of the game plan or the audit plan for
Yeah,
moving forward?
I can do that.
All right, so within 2 weeks, we should be able to get that information.
Right.
And then at the next meeting, if we don't have one before our regular monthly meeting, we will, we'll have time in between to address your recommendations for action at the next meeting.
Do you want me to just send the recommendations to just you
Well,
three?
what I want you to, yes, I want you to send the audit plan that you're gonna prepare for the next 9 months. After you sit down and go through what you're gonna do in the next 2 weeks to us, so we can review it and make some decisions as to which direction we're gonna go for the next 9 months.
Gotcha.
Yes.
This is kind of off the subject, but on the subject of the money, where now are the taxes from the hotel and motel taxes going, now that we don't have an economic development department? Where's that money going?
The money goes into the general fund, as it always has. The only thing is, it's not going to salary now, so we are able to reprogram that money, and it hasn't been reprogrammed yet as to what we're gonna do with it.
Because when I talked to the lady in the tax department, she told me that it was going to the tourism commission. And
No, well, you're talking about two different taxes.
the hotel motel tax. is
Okay,
what we're
that's,
talking about.
no, but there's two different taxes. You got a tourism commission that was set up that allows 2% per room to be collected, which is only in the last couple of years.
Okay.
Then you got the hotel motel tax that the state collects and remits back to the parish minus an administrative fee. That money is about $350,000 a year. I haven't seen what the tourism tax collections are up to date yet, but they just started implementing that in the last year or two. So the hotel motel tax, I said it was $350,000. It may be $175,000. I don't remember the exact number. That money is to be used for tourism, economic development, and promotion of the parish. In the past, when we collected that money, it all went to a salary, and we had no money to do anything other than pay the salaries.
Right.
So now that we don't no longer pay those salaries, that money could be used to promote tourism, economic development through commercials, through whatever avenue that we decide to do and promote it. So that's where we're at with it. So we're in flux with it. The money is accruing into the general fund. Now, the tourism tax, I'm not sure where it is accruing at. I understand that the parish was collecting it for the tourism board. The tourism board decides how that money is spent.
Who is our tourism board?
There's a board that's been appointed, and they meet on regular once a month at the YMCA.
And the council appoints them? Is that?
I think they were appointed by the council. They put their little advertisement in the Gazette as when they meet. I can give you some contacts if you want to call Ms. Strohmeyer, or if you want to call the guy who owns the plantation. He's on the board, Foster Capel.
Okay.
Those are two individuals that I know are on the board, tourism board.
I think Van Haverback too.
So that,
Right.
that amount of money goes to,
Whatever, I don't know what their amount is.
no, I'm saying like whatever that amount is, they get to use that.
To
for
promote tourism.
Tourism for here.
Right.
And we haven't had that before. That way
Just in the last
salaries.
year or two.
Okay.
They get no salaries, that group.
No, I know that, but I'm saying, but I know
But
somebody.
that's a
was getting
different tax,
salary.
yes.
Okay.
And pardon me for this question, it might be a little remedial, but I'm trying to get the whole, the global picture of the reason for this committee. And when we pay to have outside audits done, usually those audits will have recommendations. Is part of the task of the internal auditing department to make remedy to those outside audits? You know, if there's certain things we get gigged on, is that part of how this department would function to make
Well,
sure that next year we don't
I have
get-
not seen any recommendations from those external auditors. All I have seen is reports that show how much we have paid them and how much they have collected.
Right,
And
that's
that's-
kind of
And what I think their audits are about are more of people not paying the taxes and pursuing what they have not paid, which, you know, I haven't seen any recommendations from them as to what would make us make them pay those taxes any more frequently or period.
because that's what I'm running too. If we could do an ROI on things like Gary Lambert, because we pay Gary Lambert over $1 million a year to help us go out and collect sales tax, but our sales tax is what, about 12 billion? So if we're spending $1 million and we're already.
Wait, what? 12 billion?
12 million?
No, our sales taxes are way down. They're less than that. But
Okay,
anyway,
then
the
we're
point
spe-
is.
We have an internal sales tax department,
I know,
and
but
we're
the-
paying an outside consultant, and we have been for years.
Yes.
And, I mean, I did a public records request on that.
Right, so let me ask you this. You have seen the report then that says how much we paid them versus how much they have collected.
I've not seen that report.
Well, that's a report that you need to see because we assume that without having them in the field, because they audit all around the state, Texas, they audit, they run across items that we would not be able to capture within the sales tax department, and that's the money they go after.
I understand.
And so, it's always been shown to me in those reports that they have returned much more than we've ever paid them.
Okay, how can I get a copy?
I would ask Mr. Surpass in the finance department to provide you with that.
Okay.
One of the things you might want to add to that report, I guess, in what you're receiving, is how much money after they've collected, how much is then refunded back to the taxpayer, because we have been refunding money as well, and there is a report that tells after collections what was refunded.
And that's a good piece of information,
Right.
because that brings it full circle.
And then the next point that I wanted to make is that any of our external audit firms that the parish has, internal audit has not been involved with any of the external auditors. So to make any kind of recommendations or to follow up on departments or anything of that sort, we're not involved.
We are getting there.
Yes, Mr. Wall.
Yeah, I just make a comment, and I know y'all well aware of my situation with, quote, the bar pit ordinance and the fees that should be collected. And, you know, you have a report on here on duplexes and stuff, and part of that, if the law is no good, it's no good. But I did a little research and found out that this law that was written, or this ordinance that was written, was almost verbatimly copied from the Jefferson Parish ordinance. I found that out yesterday. Except that we put a waiver in if you were between a certain area, you didn't have to backfill your pit. Jefferson has it that you have to backfill. So now they're using our mud to backfill the Jefferson Parish pit. This is nothing with the audit department. My part with the audit department is that there's 3 cents a ton supposed to be collected on every sand pit. Every report is supposed to be in every November. I can't track that report that says how much was actually sold in this parish. It's required upon whether it's a sand pit or a mud pit, to collect his fee. And we're talking about money that I can't find the parish is collecting. I don't know if that belongs in this audit department, but, you know, if there is a law, ordinance, and a citizen can go out and look at it and can't track why these companies are not turning in that report in November. It's supposed to be sent to the permit department. The permit department said they don't get the report. Who's enforcing that the operator gets the report in? I mean, if it says in the law they must turn in a report, and they don't turn in a report, well, you don't know how much we should be collecting. And I don't know the value of it because I can't get the report. But, you know, I mean, I looked this morning, I counted 19 trucks going to the field.
Right, that's the mud.
But that's the mud, but there's 3 cents a ton on that mud that should be collected. Even though it's violating the law, I'm looking at revenues.
Well,
And in the sand pits, that is tax money should be coming in. If you don't know how much they're spending, I've only run through 4 sand pits. Some of them are not permitted, that's the permit department. And if they're not permitted, they don't turn in a report. It's sort of like what we've seen with the trailers, the trailer park. He didn't comply, so he put an application in, they're operating without a permit. And we don't do nothing. Now, should we get fees from them? My understanding on that was we didn't even collect the application fee.
right. Well, it goes back to the situation of where we need to focus in on one per month and evaluate the process as well as anything else that we might find and make recommendations for improvement. So those could be easily targeted as writing a report that says, if that's what we find, that, permit department's not doing a job. I mean, that could be a conclusion.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying with internal
Yeah,
audit.
if that shows up on one of the lists that we have, and that's the point of trying to set the agenda for the next 9 months, to be able to say that, all right, in July, we are gonna audit the processes in the permit department.
Right.
And spend that amount of time auditing that, and whatever comes up, as I mentioned in the beginning of the meeting, whether everybody's treated fairly, everybody's paying, everybody's doing the same paperwork, or what paperwork we can improve, and those type of things. That's the idea of trying to focus on the game plan, which is really the audit plan, to be able to move something every month, rather than coming like we come today. We see that for 2016, we have no completed reports, no audits completed, so that's a year. Now, is my goal, and I'm sure their goal, is to try to accomplish something on a regular basis, to be able to make recommendations, as the charter says, for improvement. The recommendation might mean that we have to change the process in the permit department, or we may have to change the process in the sales tax department, whatever department it is. But anyway, that's talking in broad terms, and I understand getting down into, the nitty-gritty of it, that we need to do that. But we need to get the big picture before we can drill down on that picture. And that's where I'm headed. So that's why I asked for the audit plan in the next 2 weeks to be presented to us, to be able to make the decision at the next meeting as to, this is going to be March's target, April, so forth. Anything else on that item? Not? We'll move to old business. At this time, I'm going to seek a suspension of the rules to add an item on the agenda today for possible consideration and discussion of discipline of Ms. Daisy and insubordination of Ms. Lakeisha Daisy. And I'll ask for a motion to do that.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. Secretary, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Juneau?
Yes.
Councilmember Roussel?
Yes.
Councilmember Trufant Salvant?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Daisy, I'm referring back to your email, and what we want to be able to do is work with you. So at this time, I'm going to read what you wrote to us and ask you if you would take and retract that statement by email and comply with the policies and procedures that we adopted at the last meeting. And this is what I'm referring to. So I am sorry to inform you that I am refusing to use these time cards, and I will not be submitting any with my timesheet. I respectfully refuse to participate with this so-called new policy agenda. Well, it's clearly apparent to me that an employee may not simply refuse to comply with the policy. To blatantly do so appears to be insubordination. And if you refuse to do that, we have no other choice to move forward with disciplinary action. My intent is to ask you to retract that. If you have a grievance, I'm going to issue this grievance policy to you. You can file a grievance. These are the procedures. These are the forms. We adopted the policies, and we expect them to be followed. So at this time, I'm asking you, will you do that?
No, I will not.
Okay, if you refuse to follow the policy and refuse to do that, I'm asking for the board to authorize me to write a letter of reprimand for your insubordination. And I'll ask for a motion to do that.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Secretary, call the roll.
Councilmember Gino?
Yes.
Councilmember Russo?
Yes?
Councilmember Trufant Salvant?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Russo, may I comment on, I don't know if it's personnel matters and we're in a public meeting, if y'all should be in executive session discussing personnel matters.
The person that we're reflecting on has the ability to go into executive session, but this is a public meeting that we are
Okay.
just addressing the procedures and the grievances. And
Okay.
we've asked Ms. Daisy to cooperate with us and the policy and retract the statement so we can move forward and work together. Today, she has refused to do that, so now we will move forward with a letter of reprimand. The policy for the cards begin on Monday. We're again after the weekend. We hope that you reconsider and you follow the policy beginning on Monday with the time cards. If not, then you will be subject to further disciplinary action.
And that's fine, and my position is then and now that, that's only a portion of the email that you've read, but in the email, it states that, this, I feel, is a, part of a retaliation on some comments that I've made to you all in some past emails. And on top of that, this time card thing is not a standard within this parish. It's not every employee is required to punch a time card, including y'all secretaries. And there are other departments in which the council reside over as far as committees. And you don't require those departments to file a time card. So, again, I refuse.
Okay, you are hereby formally reprimanded for insubordination for declaring in your email of February 3rd, 2017, your intent to refuse to abide by the time card policy adopted by the Internal Audit Committee and applicable to all internal audit staff. You expressed your disapproval at the policy change at the last meeting, but the committee voted to adopt a new policy for all internal audit committee staff, which includes you. This formal reprimand will be placed in your personnel record. If you carry through with the threat not to turn in time cards for the pay period that begins on Monday, February 13th, and insert the applicable date will be for that period, then you will be subject to additional reprimand.
I accept that.
Any further comments on our agenda under old business? If not, we'll move to item 6.
Approval of the February 3rd, 2017 special meeting minutes.
I move that the minutes be accepted as read.
I second.
Secretary, call the roll.
Councilmember Gino?
Yes.
Councilmember Russo?
Yes.
Councilmember Trufant Salvant?
Yes.
All right, is there any further business to come before the audit committee today? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Yes.
The last council meeting, when will that be posted on the audit committee meeting? When will that be posted online? Do you know?